Hello and welcome to episode 65 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bolin, and I just twitched there. I don't know why. A little chilling up my spine because I'm excited to be recording with Zach and Ozzy. We'll go to Zach first. Zach, how are things in Medicine Hat?
Things are good, Steve. Living the dream here in Medicine Hat as always. Had a nice day. A little bit of wind though. With the bank being the way it is right now, I'm outside half of the day. Right in the shade with the wind. It was actually kind of chilly. So, I'm excited for the summer weather coming forward here. Plus 25 to 29. I'm looking forward to that. And, the
Nice.
desert of Medicine Hat.
Yeah, we don't get that here in Calgary. But Ozzy, how are things, my friend?
Things are fantastic over here. We might have Jasper barking right away. He's just heading to the door. But Zach, I appreciated that. You got the living the dream and then also went into your weatherman act. So I fully enjoyed that. But,
Classic bank talk.
We're trusted for two things here at Third and Wrong, and that's sports coverage and the weather. And you can always count on both of that. Even though by the time you listen to this episode, it's like, well, that already happened. But it's still relevant because people want to know how we're doing. Guys, on some more serious note, we had a milestone yesterday, so the 26th. 1 year ago yesterday, we had our first interview with Marcus Chunky Adams. That was episode 12, I believe. And he was the former defensive tackle for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So that was pretty huge for us. And since then, we've interviewed, if I try to list them all, I'm going to forget one and I'm going to feel bad. But, we're going to put it in the show notes, actually, all the episodes, numbers of who we've interviewed. And definitely go back and check those out, guys, because we're super proud to have had those guys on. And we're looking forward to having plenty more guests on. And just last week had Matt Nichols on. So definitely go check that one out as well. So, guys, we're kind of in a weird period right now. CFL, not really sure what's going to go on with that. We'll get to that a little later. NFL, everyone's pretty optimistic we're going to have a season by the fall, and there's no real signs from the league anyways that they have any contingency plans to delay the season at all. So we're just going to assume everything's all right. So, when in doubt, stick your head in the sand. That's what I always say. So anyways, we're going to cover the AFC North, and we're going to talk about all four teams, throw out some predictions, some loose predictions, and, talk about the draft and the off seasons they had. So let's just get right into it, guys. The Ravens coming off a 14-2 season, Lamar Jackson MVP, reigning MVP, and Earl Thomas going through some things, but still on the team, still around. And they choked in the divisional round. So how can they improve more? Well, they went and got Calais Campbell, and in their draft, they went and got Patrick Queen, J.K. Dobbins. Those are two huge assets, guys. For me personally, I see the Ravens bouncing back with 13 wins. I see them going 13-3. Let's go to the big rival first, Zach. What are you feeling about the Ravens this year?
It's funny you say 13-3 because that is exactly what I have written down here. The Ravens are an unreal team. They've improved their roster, but one thing people do need to understand is you got to jump off the hype a little bit. The NFL is a copycat league, and to think that teams aren't going to prepare for a team that went 14-2 last year and kind of mold a defense against that to, slow them down a bit, it would be kind of naive. Teams are going to try to find ways to stop the best team in the league, and they were the best team in the regular season. Now, here's where the Ravens have such an advantage here, and that is they have the easiest schedule in the NFL.
What do you know?
Yes. Don't tell me they do. Do they actually?
That's some Patriots luck right there.
Right?
What?
They go 14-2 last year, and now they have the easiest schedule. The win percentage for the teams they are playing this year is 43.8%.
Yeah.
So they really do have the easiest schedule. Trust me, I looked it up. But as you said, I was actually going to jump into all the additions they made. They also got Derek Wolfe from the Denver Broncos in a one-year deal.
Yeah.
Remind me, I just dropped my laptop.
Ozzy can't believe it. He's just like...
Another big signing that went under the radar was Jack Ryan from the Jacksonville Jaguars, stud linebacker, but kind of fell in the depth chart there to being what you would call a third best linebacker there, but was still very productive. They got Patrick Queen, as you said, Steve, in the draft. They're just making everything, all their strengths even better. But the thing that I have here is teams are going to come in and attack this team that has that chip on their shoulder, knowing that this was the team to beat last year. Now, I'm saying that I still have them 13-3, so one more loss, big one on there. But you know, there's a lot going right for them. I think people are going to game plan better for Lamar Jackson this year, and I don't see the same MVP numbers as he had last year. Zach Zubrecki's going to hate me for saying that, and it should only be love he thinks for it. But for Ravens fans, I'm saying 13-3, and if that's not good enough for you, go cry me a river. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Zach Zabrecki can scream at us at a charity softball tournament again this summer if that happens. So
That was fantastic.
Ozzy, what are your thoughts on the Ravens? I was going to say usually a threat to the Patriots, but the Patriots aren't going to be a threat this year. So as you were.
Yeah, they actually fully embarrassed the Patriots last year too, Steve. Thank you for bringing that blowout up.
Anytime.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty much with you guys in the sense that like this team it's built to succeed, but I don't see them doing as good as you guys have them at 13-3. Zach, you say they have the best schedule or the easiest schedule, but I also look at the AFC North in general, and all three of those teams like really underperformed last year. So I think that's a little misleading because 6 of their games are going to be against the AFC North, obviously. All teams that like the Browns underperformed. The Steelers lost Big Ben early, underperformed at 8-8, which was incredible. And then the Bengals obviously just tanked for Joe Burrow. So with that being said, I think that this division is a little bit closer than meets the eye on the surface. So I have the Ravens at 11-5. I think that it seems like quite a fall off, and I'm sorry, Zach Zubrecki, in advance. However, I look at what the Browns have done, and it's easy to fall victim a little bit to the hype. And you'll hear what my prediction is on the Browns in a little bit here, but them being an example, they seem to have the right pieces in place. Steve, I love the face. The Steelers, they get Big Ben back. He's going to be slinging it. So, and
slinging Big Ben. I don't think that man's
Ozzy,
lifted a weight in 10 years, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
For all of our viewers, I also had the Ravens. Can you see it? I had the Ravens at 11-5 originally.
Yeah.
Then he heard Steve, and he's like, "Oh no, 13-3, cross it out."
I switched my notes prior, like before this. So no, it wasn't when Steve said that. I'm happy we aligned, Steve.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Well, I'm glad that me and past Zach aligned at 11-5, but I don't know what happened between now and then.
Things change, man. People change.
But yeah, so I don't. While they do have the easiest schedule, apparently, I just found this out. That's kind of my logic around that. So I think there's a little bit of a fall off, but this team is so it's built to freaking kill. They re-signed Matthew Judon, who everybody thought was going to be a sign and trade kind of guy, a tag and trade guy. They just tagged him and kept him, apparently. You get Derek Wolfe. You now have a secondary re-signing Jimmy Smith that has Marcus Peters, Earl Thomas, Marlon Humphrey. I know we've talked about how freaking insane that is. And then you just add Calais Campbell for a 5th round pick they got him for.
Yeah.
So that defense is going to eat. But I think that teams are going to they're going to figure out I don't know why are you laughing at me, Steve. Right
No, I'm not laughing at you. I can't believe they got him for a 5th round pick. I was chuckling at that. Like I saw Zach shaking his head, and like I just thought about it. I'm like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Man. I know we already talked about this in our free agent episode, but I was just dawning on it. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off track.
No, that's all good. That's pretty much it. Like that defense is not even fair. It's a Madden defense, and I'm not a fan of it, to be honest with you. Like it's gonna cause a lot of heartache for a lot of fan bases.
Do you guys think a lot of teams are going to come in with
Nice.
Scare the hell
Sorry,
out of
hold
me.
that thought.
Do you guys think a lot of teams are going to come in with like that Titans mentality where they're going to try to, not everyone has Derrick Henry, but do you think maybe possession time and keeping the ball to Lamar Jackson's hands is the key to beating this team. And do you think teams could potentially exploit that, or have the Ravens learned their lesson and they're going to close that loophole and you're not really going to see an upset like that again?
Ray, who do you want to go first?
Anyway, Zach, you talked first. You go ahead.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be something different that NFL defensive coordinators are gonna check out. It's always gonna be hard to play against the Ravens in a possession game because they're so rush oriented. So they're going to control the clock majority of the time. I think a lot of it is getting that offense to more of a pass first style. So you need to come in and you got to stop the run early. That's what the Browns did when we blew them out, just destroyed them in week 4 last year. We stopped Lamar from running the ball and being effective on the ground. And Lamar's a great passer and he showed good steps forward in that dimension, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. And people are getting this mix up because he won MVP this year, that he is this unreal thrower. He had great stats, great stat lines. I can't speak. However, when you got him into passing situations without a great run game, that's where he struggled. And I think that teams are going to come in with that game plan to stop the run, keep him in the pocket, and make him a pure passer. You're not going to completely, but you're going to put it on his shoulders more times than not in these heavy running sets and be able to slow them down in the run game. Then the pass game, they're going to rely on too much, and that's going to slow them down. But, I'm not a defensive coordinator in the NFL. I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I do feel that's something that they're going to try to exploit more.
Ozzy?
I would agree, Zach, but this with teams wanting to do what the Titans did, it's very easy to say that, but not everybody has a Derrick Henry, first of all, and second of all,
not everyone has a Ryan Tannehill.
Well, that goes without saying, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people refer to him as Ryan Tannegoat.
Correct.
So
we'll make the t-shirts when we have the money to do so.
Exactly. Yeah. Wait, we don't have it sitting around in a bank account?
No, you spent it on that big trip last year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I look at this. I made a list of some of the players on defense that the Ravens have, and when I look at it, they built around the weakness that Derrick Henry exploited in the I don't know. Zach,
playoffs.
I can't speak either. In the playoffs, yeah, thank you, Steve. By getting Calais Campbell, getting Derek Wolfe, you beef up that defensive line, and then you get Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison at linebacker. Well, what are teams gonna do? You got to run them down, but they just beefed up that whole defensive line. So while I said the Ravens are going to be 11-5, they might as well just pencil them in at 16-0 because I can't spot spot a freaking weakness on this defense. What are you gonna do?
If we go back, Ozzy, I did say that they're not going to be. Sorry, time of possession was always going to be in the Ravens' hands anyways with the running. I wasn't meaning offensively against the Ravens. I was meaning defense.
No, I was just going the offensive route.
No, I agree. I actually totally agree with that.
Well,
so we literally made opposite points, which furthers my point that the Ravens are probably going 16-0.
So we can all concur. Now I can't talk. Bruce Almighty somewhere is doing the thing that he did. I hope everyone who's listening to this has seen that movie. You should have. So, if not, that was just probably a very awkward sequence for all of us. Okay, we're all in agreement then that the Ravens will be good in 2020.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, heck yeah.
The next team I want to cover, and it's because I have them second in our division or in the AFC North, is the Cleveland Browns.
Hey.
I have them going 10-6. And I'll let Zach speak more to their draft. But my favorite thing is that Jedrick Wills, that offensive tackle. Offensive line was obviously a big component of why the Browns weren't more successful last year. Baker had happy feet back there. Wasn't making all his throws that we saw him make the year before. And I think just kind of relied too much on scramble plays and luck to make things happen. And it didn't turn out. Mind you, the Browns went, where'd they go, 7-9, Zach? So it wasn't a
6 and
catastrophe of a 6-10, but it wasn't a catastrophe of a season, right? Like compared to what Cleveland has come from this past decade, it's a step in the right direction. Now you bring in Kevin Stefanski, and I think that can really help right the ship. You also got Austin Hooper at tight end there, so more weapons. And I'll let you speak more to that. But I have them in at 10 wins, and I think this is the year that like you will know now if Baker's a franchise quarterback or not. If you guys have another 6-10 or 7-9 season, I think it's safe to say you're probably looking at the next free agent crop or the draft next year. Like I think Colin has said this, so I'm kind of stealing his take, but like there's no more excuses really at this point. You have the weapons. The defense seems to be like a top 15, top 10 unit, you'd think, even though Clowney just turned him down, reportedly, gave him the richest contract and he didn't want to go to Cleveland. Anyways. And now you have the protection. On paper, you have the protection of Wills pans out, and you got Conklin too. It's all there for Baker. It's just in his hands to do it. And I personally think he'll get it done. We've been talking about the Baker Redemption Tour, and it's also going to be Baker Revenge Season, and you can spell it either SZN or season spelled correctly. So however you want to spell it, Baker's coming back with a vengeance. He has the weapons. He has the protection. He has the defense. He, on paper, has the coaching staff. I don't see why this team doesn't win 10 games. Zach, we'll go right back to you, the Cleveland Browns fan.
Thanks, Steve. I love hearing the hype about it. It's nice coming from somebody else's mouth than mine. Really good. Those who are watching, you're seeing my hat here. I had to wear it because we were doing the AFC North. Let me jump in a bit. A lot of the points you made, I'm going to make again. But the biggest one actually is building that structure right from the hire of the head coach, Kevin Stefanski. We're getting structure. He has a tested offensive system that is effective. Lots of double tight end, 2 wide receiver, fullback, running back look. This is going to be very effective with Nick Chubb and the play action pass with Baker Mayfield, who is coming into his 3rd year, isn't new to the NFL anymore. He's getting more veteran looks. He's had 2 full seasons almost as a starting quarterback. I honestly do believe this offense is going to look better than the mess that Freddie Kitchens brought in last year. That college-looking offense that just looked terrible. Honestly, everyone ran around out there looking like they were in high school games against NFL-level defenses. And you could just see the play calling was off. There wasn't anything that was really clicking. Stefanski brings that. Stefanski brings some of that structure that needs to happen on offense. Yes, Oz?
Is Stefanski bringing back the 4th and 9 draws, or no? Are those gone with Freddie?
No, I think we might pull a few of those out this go around.
Long live the 4th and 9 draw, man. To be fair, none of us saw it coming.
So. Right, yeah.
I mean, he had us fooled, so...
On that note, though, like a big one, like you mentioned Austin Hooper, Steve, coming in for this tight end group that is going to be so important for this offense. But we can't forget Kareem Hunt's going to be there all season now. We're going to have Chubb and Kareem Hunt running in the backfield. Kareem Hunt was the rushing yard leader in 2017. And Chubb, well, I think Chubb can speak for himself in the body of work he's done these last 2 years. That's one of the most fearsome backfields in all of NFL. On top of that, as Steve also alluded to, we got Conklin in the free agency period, who is arguably the best right tackle for run defense, or run, I guess, kind of blocking. There we go.
Yeah.
That's going to translate well with Baker into the play action pass, which Stefanski loves to run. And then on the left side, we got Jedrick Wills, who played right tackle, but is now making the transition to left tackle. He's going to be great there. I believe in it. He was the best tackle in the draft, but was the 2nd tackle to go, which is very exciting for Cleveland Browns. We addressed our other need at safety. We got Andrew Sandejo. I got it. There we go. Carl Joseph from the Raiders. And in the draft, we drafted in the 2nd round, Grant Delpit out of LSU, who some people saw it as a little bit of a reach, but, you know, I think he's going to develop well in the back there. We also have Sheldrick Redwine from last year's draft, 4th round pick. He he also actually played some meaningful minutes last year and did well for a rookie. Okay.
I'm more of a white wine kind of guy myself.
Well, you're going to be disappointed because red wine's going to blow you out of the water. I know.
Damn it, Ozzy.
Here's the one thing, though, that I do have a huge question mark about, and that is our linebacking core. We did address it a little bit, but we didn't bring in the talent we needed compared to the talent we lost. That being said, we brought in BJ Goodson, and we also drafted Jacob Phillips out of LSU in the third. Good talent, but not like superstar talent that we needed to add to, as we only have really Mac Wilson, who had a lot of meaningful starting minutes last year. So question marks at linebacker scares me a little bit. Hopefully our D-line can get up there and really disrupt the pass and the run game up front, and that helps the linebackers out a bit.
Bring
Now,
back Scooby Wright.
Scooby.
Remember, you were so high on him, man, and
Man.
it just didn't work.
Yeah, seventh round pick. He had a lot of upside, good tackler, but just didn't pan out. I guess all the GMs were right in the NFL not to draft him so early. But the big thing about us, we have a weak schedule. We're the fourth best for us. So
Fourth easiest
schedule. That's how you say that. Yeah, thanks. All of our opponents have 46.1% win totals from last year. So that's good. I think where my record that I'm going to share next comes into play is, even though I think Stefanski's a better structural fit at head coach and he's going to build a good culture and really get to know the guys in a good structural way, I think there's going to be some bumps. First year head coach, maybe a shortened off season here for working with the guys. But I think those bumps translate to a 9-7 record and our first playoff berth since 2002.
As a 7 seed or a 6 seed?
I didn't really look that into it.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that'd be awesome though.
One of the two, which is great. And a playoff berth is all we need with a guy like Baker Mayfield who wants to win in a good system. That's freaking exciting, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Ozzy, your thoughts? Are you coming in with a wet blanket? Let us know.
Wait, what? What's that expression?
Like
a wet blanket on a fire? You put out the fire.
Oh, put out the fire. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not. I'm with Zach. Spoiler alert. I'll just get into it now. Like, I had the Browns at 9-7 as well. As much as I wanted to put them as a double-digit win team, I don't think that they are there yet. But they do have the pieces, which, like, right guard and linebacker kind of being the two positions that one would be like, okay, we need to address those. When you have that, like, the depth filled on all the other positions, and those are the two glaring ones, it's like, I think you guys will be in good shape. That's not going to be the downfall of the Cleveland Browns. I just think that they're going to be victims to a really tough conference this year. I think there's a lot of up-and-coming teams that, like, you look at teams like the Steelers, who went 8-8 without Big Ben last year, and then they only added with they'll get Big Ben back, and then looking at some of their free agent additions and stuff. But so that's just my winded way of saying I agree with you, Zach. I do like how the Browns have filled out that secondary. Like, you've got that defensive line, and you didn't even mention, I don't think, that they were in on Jadeveon Clowney. They have the highest offer to Clowney right now, which would be freaking amazing if they signed him.
He turned it down.
Yeah.
Oh, he full on turned it down?
Yeah, I mentioned that. He just doesn't really want to play in Cleveland. It might be a city thing. It might be the team, but he turned down the highest offer he was offered, which I can't get mad at Seattle anymore for that, because
another Dak Prescott style thing here, man. Mm-hmm. Like, that pisses me off, man. But go ahead, Ozzy. I don't mean to cut you off.
That's all good. Well, I didn't really need Clowney anyways for my point. I just like how they have, like, Olivier Vernon might be gone or you restructure his contract. I'm not sure what you do there, but you've got the pieces on the defensive line with Sheldon Richardson, Myles Garrett. Linebacker gets a little iffy behind Mac Wilson after losing Schobert and Kirksey. But then in the secondary, I really love that you guys have, like, a really nice balance of veteran and young talent. So you signed Kevin Johnson at corner, who was decent with the Texans at one point, I believe. Carl Joseph, Sandejo, as you mentioned, those two. And then the young talent being Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. Love that pairing. And like that just, I don't know, like I'm not even a Browns fan, but that just gets my juices moving. And Steve, wipe off that smirk, god damn it. And
I was just looking over there.
yeah, sure. And then Grant Delpit, which was it was kind of like there was a mixed bag. The jury was out on Grant Delpit heading into the draft. People said if you threw away his 2019 tape, he was a first round pick. But including his 2019 tape, it didn't look too pleasant. So, the talent is there, but can you coach him up? So I'm not sure who your defensive coordinator is, but they might have their work cut out for him.
Man, the big thing here, Ozzy, is you're wrong. They're going 16-0, and I take back what I'm saying. I don't want to hear all that crap, okay? I just want to hear all the good things, okay?
Oh, I just mean like just with Grant Delpit, the DC would have his work cut out for him. Otherwise, the defense is freaking ready to eat. But I said that about the Ravens too, so that's half of the AFC North ready to eat.
Well, let's get to the other half. In third place, I have the Steelers at 9-7 actually. So just behind the Browns there. So it really depends how their season series plays out. Their biggest name that they drafted was Chase Claypool, wide receiver, Canadian out of Abbotsford, BC. So, congrats to him. Maybe get him on the pod someday. And but aside from that, a lot of the hype I'm seeing surrounding the Steelers, Ozzy, and you alluded to it, and I laughed, was Ben's health. Like, we went 8-8 without Ben. So if we get Ben back, that automatically equals X amount of wins. Well, I don't know. It's a new season, so I don't know if it's that straightforward where you can say, well, okay, we got 8 without Ben. Ben's worth 3 wins, so we're gonna go 11-5. I don't know if it's that simple, right? Like every team in this division, which we're gonna get to the Bengals too, has improved. So far, we've agreed that the Ravens, though dropping off by a win, have technically improved as a team. The Browns have improved their biggest deficiency at offensive line. They will be a better team. So the Steelers coming in, Ben being healthy, and let's say he does last a full season, I'm not even sure if he will. I really only think that's worth a win at 9-7. Maybe that's a 7 seed to sneak into the playoffs, and from there they can do some damage. But I'm not really seeing the hype around this team. I mean, yeah, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick, which greatly improved that defense, and you have TJ Watt on the defensive line. You still have Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner. Did I say that right? Yeah, I don't. For some reason, I was blanking on that. But so there's still pieces there. This isn't going to be a 5-11 team, but as far as putting them up with the Ravens, Chiefs, or kind of the more elite teams of the AFC, I really don't see it personally. 9-7, maybe they hit 10 wins because Ben just has one more really good season in him. But Colin had a really good segment that, like, a lot of people know, like, Ben doesn't have a rigorous off-season training program. He's not like Tom Brady or Russell Wilson, who you see in the gym every day. Like, whether that's true or not, just based on how he's built. I'm not trying to body shame here. I'm probably built like Ben Roethlisberger myself, just without the athleticism. I just don't think he's worth a bunch more wins, even at a full season healthy. And that elbow injury he's coming back from is pretty serious too. It would cause him to miss a whole year. So we'll go right back to Aussie for this one on the Steelers. Where do you see them landing?
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. I don't think that Big Ben is going to just make them like an 11-12 win team. But I still think that, like, Mike Tomlin has been kind of shit on, like, for the last 3-4 years. The Steelers they're not like a sexy team where they have like all these blowouts or anything like that. They're not going to wow you in that sense. They're going to win grungy games, and that's just kind of how they play. And Big Ben being back, I think that's worth another 2 wins. I like the way you kind of did it, like with a formula, saying that's not the case, but I do see it kind of being that way. You're 8-8 with the team that was there. That's freaking Mason Rudolph. Let's not forget. I think Big Ben is obviously much better than that, and how healthy he comes back, I don't know. Like that, I'll be honest there. But speculating that he's going to come back above Mason Rudolph levels, I would say that 10-6 is totally reasonable. And again, that AFC North has an easier schedule just based on the stats around it. So I think that that's not out of the realm. It's one win more than what you had, Steve. So I think you would be fine with that.
So just to be clear, then you have the Ravens in first, the Steelers in second, and the Browns in third. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like you got, I know, sorry, Zach, Eric Ebron, you add him to the mix. And so that gives you, I guess, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson. I'm not sure who else they have at receiver. And then, yeah, you got James Conner and Eric Ebron. That's a pretty good offense in terms of skill players. And then you get that offensive line. I mean, it seems like that unit has been together for like 17 years. I'm not sure how much of this, maybe I don't pay too much attention to the Steelers, but they're pretty good in general. So, and that defense is just always feisty. So 10-6, and I mean, not a lot of insight onto the defense, but I mean, not much needs to go into it. They're always pretty aggressive, pretty insane.
With Mike Tomlin, I think his reputation before last year was warranted. They had some uber talented teams with like Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Roethlisberger in his prime. Who else? They had Juju for a year, and they choked year after year in the playoffs, whether that would be to the Patriots in AFC Championship games. I think 2016 or 2017 was the most disappointing when they went in with the big three: Antonio Brown, Big Ben, and Le'Veon Bell, and then I think they lost by 25 points to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. So up until that point, Mike Tomlin had the overrated label to him. And then last year, out of nowhere, he coaches this team to an 8-8 record led behind Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So I think that was very restoring for his legacy. And that might seem like a massive statement, but it's true. Like perennial playoff disappointment after disappointment year after year over the last decade. Let's be clear. They haven't made a Super Bowl since 2010 or won one since 2008. A lot more was expected when you have a Hall of Famer like Ben Roethlisberger, but last year was very redeeming for Tomlin's legacy. And I think he's a great coach. I think he's a top 5 coach in the NFL. Just unfortunate letdowns in the playoffs. Let's go to Zach. So let's recap. I have the Steelers at 9 wins. Ozzy has them at 10. We'll go to Zach. Where do you see the Steelers panning out this year?
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. My take's a little different than both yours, boys.
Oh,
I like Tomlin. And I do respect Tomlin quite highly, actually. He has, with, like you said, Doug Hodges and Mr. Get hit on the head by a helmet after racial slurs, they say, Mason Rudolph himself. So, yes, he always gets his team out playing. It's the Steelers mentality, get out there, play tough. That is them. Tomlin has some kind of record where I don't think he's had a losing season or something. I don't know that exact, some kind of record about not having a losing season in a certain amount of time. So I do respect him as a coach. Here is where I disagree with Oz here, actually. Big Ben, 2017 to 2019, threw the most interceptions than any other quarterback in the NFL. You add in, he comes back last year. He then destroys his elbow, or he doesn't destroy it, gets his elbow destroyed. Now he's coming back at 38. Honestly, at that point, it may have been the perfect time for the Steelers to move on from him. But I feel like they have some kind of, they've got to cherish it and bring him back, kind of like the Chargers, Phillip Rivers thing for last season. After they have a great season, they're going to bring him back, give him another shot at it. The decline's coming for Big Ben. I feel it. I think it's coming sooner rather than later. People need to start realizing that. He's done some great things in the past. Like Steve said, he's not this off-season wizard. I just don't see it translating well. They could have went out. There's other guys in the free agency market that could have worked. Actually, at this point, I probably would have taken Cam Newton over Big Ben. Whoa, crazy, right? But yes, I do think so. And to add on to that, their draft this year felt more like just filling question marks than getting players they needed to compete at a high level. They drafted at running back because James Conner is a question mark now. He had that stud of a season, came back, was hurt and didn't perform well. So they drafted running back in the second round. I had another guy written down that they drafted with another player on that team who was one of their stars previously, but there's a question mark there now. It just felt like they're covering their steps right now to keep this image alive of this Steelers team of old that everyone is, it's a perennial contender. They're going to get to the AFC Championship every year because of a weak conference. The conference is harder. They have aged poorly, like very poorly on offense. Their defense is all that's holding them up. And in a firepower-ridden division with the Cleveland Browns, the Ravens, and now the Cincinnati Bengals are even building up a better offense there. This is looking bad for the Steelers in every single aspect. And that defense is the only thing that's going to hold them up. And an aging armed Ben Roethlisberger, I don't think gives them enough. I say 8-8 at best here.
Ceiling. Ooh. Zach, you just got me imagining Cam Newton in a Steelers home uniform with the black jersey and the yellow pants, and like just how like that would look so number one, just like that would look so cool, man. I can't believe he hasn't been signed yet. That's so depressing.
Yeah, crazy.
Ozzy, do you have any rebuttal to that, or what are your thoughts?
No, Zach made some pretty strong arguments and had me second guessing a little bit, but I think I'm gonna fall. I might be wrong here, but I'm gonna fall victim to the Steelers being perennial contenders. I'm gonna stick with my. I'm not gonna be a coward. I'll stick with my prediction at 10-6 for now until the Wizard of Oz series comes out and we dive into the Wizard's lair.
The Wizard's lair doesn't sound
I like it.
menacing. So we got 10-6, 9-7, 8-8. So a nice little sequence there. All right. Last but certainly not least, the Cincinnati Bengals, led by second-year head coach Zach Taylor. This Bengals team, they played the Seahawks week 1 last year, and I think the Seahawks only won 21-20. And I was like, man, this team, like maybe they playing inspired football, maybe they'll – and no, they got steamrolled quite often down the stretch. And, I'm glad Andy Dalton landed on his feet with the Cowboys. He's the best quarterback on that roster right now, so it's good to hear. No, but back to the Bengals. Obviously, it goes without saying, they drafted Joe Burrow, number 1 overall, future franchise quarterback, now taking over, wearing number 9, I believe. And then they drafted T. Higgins, who's going to be wearing number 85. So I've been seeing him tease it on Twitter. Chad Ochocinco, or Chad Johnson now, is on board with it. I've been seeing him retweet it. So the old Carson Palmer to Ochocinco days, they're hoping to replicate that with Burrow to Higgins. They're both wearing the same number. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a cool marketing thing. And
that's either going to be really sick or just
or
really
it's
horrendous.
Really poorly. Or really poorly.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So, building on that, this team's not ready to compete or contend probably anytime soon. I'd say in the next 2 years, it's going to probably be, you're looking at some, single digit wins. I have them at 5-11. I can see them having kind of like a Dolphins season where maybe they play in over their heads, but I don't think people should look at that as linear and going into 2021 where they'll be a playoff team by then. It could very well be 5-11 this year and 3-13 next year, right? Like I think these next 2 years would be very tough, but if they ride it out with Zach Taylor and they're able to keep Burrow healthy and he's able to kind of push through, and by his 3rd year, you could be looking at a playoff team. But for now, I have them last in the division at 5-11. But hey, he could steal a win from the Steelers. He could play spoiler to the Browns, making the playoffs. He could maybe take the Ravens out of the contention for a bye with the number 1 seed. Maybe they steal a win from the Ravens. This team could surprise any team in that division or in the conference, mind you. I'm pretty high on Joe Burrow. I know he wasn't your number 1 QB in the draft, Zach, but I know you're not low on him either. So I think the upside for this team is good long-term. It's going to be a rough couple of years, but I don't think this is going to be a 1-15 kind of team. I think 5 wins is very doable for this team, and that hasn't even been covering their free agent acquisitions either. So what do you, Zach? What are your thoughts on the Bengals?
It's funny you brought up the number 9 and number 85 there. Those are just, for their times, one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the game and arguably the best route runner. Okay, so here's those expectations right off. And Joe Burrow's not looked at as the best passer downfield. He's good and accurate this last season. I'm not saying anything, but the arm strength is kind of what I was getting at. But No, Steve, I think you hit it on the nail on the head with this one by saying they're in a rebuild mode big time right now, and I think they're going to feel that. I don't think Joe Burrow is the type of guy who's going to come in Andrew Luck style and turn the franchise around to 11-5 right away. I think there's going to be growing pains. I put them at 4-12 here, so right close to yours. I don't know. There's something weird about the 4-5 mark for me. 4 really feels like
A
you're
bad
really
season.
a bad. But 5-11, it's like there's a little bit of hope.
There's upside there, right? Yeah, I've
There's
noticed
some-
that too. Yeah.
right? So I think they're on the cusp of that Dolphins. I think the Dolphins this year, it's a cool, feel good 5-11. We don't leave the season the same as this one because I think they're going to come in with a crap ton of hype, and they're going to think Joe Burrow's going to come in here and change the organization to a winning team right off the bat. That's where it's going to struggle. And I don't know if he brings the fire. And for example, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Browns fan. Baker brought a fire to Cleveland. He came in that first game against the Jets after Tyrod's injury, and when he caught that Philly special for the touchdown, got in front of the camera and did his thing, it ignited a fire for the Browns to get to that 7-win season that year, 7-8-1. It was exciting. It was different. Joe Burrow brings that excitement, but it's just not the same thing that the underdog Baker brought at the first overall pick. And I think it's going to take some more time for the Cincinnati Bengals to translate that to wins. More of a slow progression, kind of like what the Jets saw with Sam Darnold coming up here. So that's kind of my take on it. 4-12. They have a lot of building to do yet.
Where you go,
Baker's-
Ozzy? What a weird or what a weird division. You have 2 first overall picks in that division. The reigning MVP, who is a second round pick, but also like only 24 or 25 now, and then Big Ben. It's just like quite the contrast there. But as you were, Ozzy, what are your thoughts on the Bengals, and what do you have their record at?
I just wanted to say first, Baker's brought that fire to 2 losing seasons in a row. So,
Oh, that's not fair. Come on.
anyways, in terms of the Bengals, I actually kind of liked what they did. I feel like they did something I would do in Madden in terms of kind of getting some cheaper free agents. DJ Reader being the exception there. He was a highly regarded defensive tackle. I think the highest regarded defensive tackle in the free agent class. If I said regarded right there, I don't know. Let me know. But words are hard, so we'll figure it out. But yeah, so that was their big signing. But then they signed some like kind of under the radar guys. They signed 2 cornerbacks out of Minnesota, Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes, who didn't really hit their potential in Minnesota. But I kind of like this because you take some swings on some guys who maybe haven't hit that potential yet, can maybe get coached up. They're still young. And then they also signed Von Bell from New Orleans. So that's a whole revamping of your secondary right there with those 3 guys and addressing the defense like crazy. So then when it comes to the draft, you get Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, and you add that to AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. So that those skill position players, like that offense is looking pretty sexy all of a sudden. It's, can that defense carry this team at all? Like a young quarterback and all, can you carry that to 5, 6, 7 wins? I have them going 5-11 as a result because I look at the Bengals, and last year when I was doing my prediction series, I said that it wasn't going to be good for the Bengals and they should just blow it up because they had a lot of good pieces in 2018 and it did not work out. Like they had one of the worst defenses, but they've got these big names. So I didn't really know what was going on there. And I still feel the same way. They took a lot of high risk, high reward, or low risk, high reward players, I guess, like low contract signings, and hoping these guys can fill those big shoes. But I don't know who the Bengals defensive coordinator is right now. I failed on the defensive coordinator front today, but like I just don't know who could turn that defense around, who could turn that team around. And so yeah, I have them going 5-11. I still think that offensively they're going to be a very frisky team though. Like that's a healthy AJ Green with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I
think
saw
that'll be
AJ Green.
sexy.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Joe Mixon, I think you said.
Oh, Joe Mixon, yeah.
Not bad. Not
Yeah.
bad.
They still
And
have
that-
Ross too.
John Ross, I wanted to include him, but he's just, we got to label him a bust. There's just,
That's
there's
fair.
like that
Man,
one
he-
season where every pass he caught was a touchdown, but it's like, he's been injured like 87% of the games he's played.
This last year he wasn't bad up until like he was doing really good early on, but I mean,
He's a perfect guy for the Patriots to trade a 7th for at training camp.
just a washing machine. Here's a washing machine.
Yeah, this is what
John
we
Ross.
use for Tom Brady's jerseys. Do you want it? And then Jarrett Stidham to John Ross connection is the Carson Palmer to Ocho Cinco connection.
Well, that's episode 65, everyone. Thanks for coming out. You can find me on Twitter. Come on, Ozzy. To recap,
Let's go.
I had Ravens at 13-3, Browns at 10-6, Steelers at 9-7, Bengals at 5-11. Zach, do you want to quickly go through yours, and we'll put it to Ozzy after?
Sure, I got 13-3 for the Ravens. So Ravens fans don't get mad at me. Browns at 9-7, Steelers at 8-8, and Cincinnati at 4-12.
Ozzy?
We've got the Ravens at falling down to 11-5, Steelers rising to 10-6, Browns 9-7, and the pesky Bengals at 5-11. Eyes are on Burrow.
And we dream of one episode one day that Ozzy won't bring up the Patriots, but we keep dreaming. No, I'm kidding. Let's shift gears to the Canadian corner, eh? Love it. You love to hear it. Maybe not. So we kind of briefly touched on it with Matt Nichols last week with the CFL coming out and proposing an 8-game season starting in September with the best record of the 2 Grey Cup participants hosting the Grey Cup, presumably in an empty stadium. There's now rumors that the Grey Cup would probably take place sometime in early to mid-December. So I thought that was kind of interesting because if you end up with Winnipeg or Saskatchewan or Calgary or Edmonton, or I guess any team that doesn't have a dome, which is every CFL team except BC, you're looking at a pretty cold Grey Cup game. I mean, we got lucky. The one in Calgary that we went to this past season, I think it was like maybe -10. I was comfortable in just a toque and a light jacket with my jersey over top. It was good. And but that was November 24th. If we're talking December 15th, you could be in a polar vortex for all we know, like we had this past winter. Like back to the weather, as this podcast is known for. You just never know what the climate will be in early to mid-December. I kind of feel that maybe the CFL will be better served just giving the Grey Cup to BC, and you have it in the dome. And it's not like they're going to reap a huge amount of economic benefit from it that they're taking away from Regina. Presumably there's going to be no Grey Cup festival. There's going to be no activities for the fans. There's going to be no fans going to the game. I'm just spitballing here. I'm no health professional. And it's going to be played in front of an empty stadium. So that's interesting. And Vancouver, mind you, has also been considered as a hub city for the NHL playoffs. So the cases have been very low in BC. They've done a great job mitigating that, as has Regina and Winnipeg. But when you factor in the weather, BC seems like a very logical point. Things could change, but it's kind of interesting. You could end up having like Hamilton hosting 2 Grey Cups in a row because they have it in 2021. And if they have the best record going into the 2020 Grey Cup and they make it, there you go. So, Zach, we'll go to your thoughts. First of all, what are your thoughts on the 8-game season, the shortened off season? Toronto's coming in with pretty much a brand new team. We just spoke with Matt Nichols last week. Either him or McLeod Bethel Thompson coming in. Does that bode well for a successful Argos season, or do you think there's enough talent there that they could potentially swing themselves on a hot run to the Grey Cup?
I was fighting over this one, Steve, and thinking about it, being like, where does it lie? Which helps more? Is it like they come in, everyone has a short season, so it's the first one to start clicking? But then my brain started going towards understanding football and how much of a chemistry game it is and how you need that time to build that chemistry. It's exciting either way. I think it opens a lot of opportunity for anyone to really, get hot early on because everyone's at a disadvantage. It brings some excitement there. I believe in my Argos. After our interview with Matt Nichols, the Star Wars guru, the quarterback of the future for the next 3 years for sure for Toronto, I love it. I think he can come in, bring some stability to the quarterback position, and get the guys around him playing very well and good football. Dinwiddie as our head coach, offensive minded. I think that bodes well for us, and we can hopefully find an identity there. However, when you think football logic wise, it's hard to be like, if you're not an Argos fan, to be like sitting here going, oh, it's going to be a great season, because they don't have that time to get that gel and like that chemistry and bring that team together, So I see it from both ways. I'm being optimistic as an Argos fan, but I also see the struggle in that there. It would be so cool to bring them back to Toronto and play another Grey Cup there in the last 10 years and win a third one. Hey guys, that would be fun for everyone.
That'd be great.
Don't see it.
And I just to quickly add, Steve, there's not much I can add to it, but I think you're totally right about the December game. They need to do it in BC, and like you said, there's no economic gain there. Words are hard. Gain there. Indeed. With this CFL, and you were also going. I don't know if you alluded to it already. It's not taking a lot away from Saskatchewan. I think it's good that they moved it back to 2022 for them, so that they can have those economic gains by having them there. Man, I'm gonna stop talking here and pass it on to Oz.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Zach. I think that no, I was ill prepared. I was just listening to the dogs bark like crazy. So,
yes,
but
scatterbrained.
Yeah, exactly. So what were we talking about?
Thoughts on the 8-game season and the Grey Cup being played by the team with the best record heading into the Grey Cup.
Fantastic. Well, that's really professional for starters. So I actually 100% agree. But the thing that I would be curious about is what implications, if any, that would have on like BC Place being just named the host for the Grey Cup, because when I was working there was some disconnect in terms of how because BC Place is owned by its own company, and then the Lions obviously just kind of lease out their time there. So I'm not sure if there's any implications in regards to that, whether that does pose as a challenge to get the game there. I mean, like, we should just be booking it right now, or as soon as we know that there's a CFL season, we should be, because I'm with you guys, like, why wouldn't you put it in a dome if there's no stipulation that can't be done? So but yeah, I mean, Zach, to your point about the Argos making it, I mean, it just, you hate to see it. I'm sorry, but Vernon Adams Jr. is just leading the boys to Alouettes to the boys. Yeah, Vernon Adams Jr. and the boys. That's what they call him. Dirty VA and the boys.
Run that one by him first before we make t-shirts.
Note that down, because when he gets on the pod, you got to ask him that exact. Is this what they call you?
Yeah.
Dirty Vernon.
This is what they call it.
All right, I'm going to shut up now so we can get him on the pod.
Yeah. And for the regular season, they're talking hub cities like Regina and Winnipeg. You'd put the Eastern teams in Winnipeg, the West teams in Regina, and just play your games out there. Or potentially putting all the teams in one city. I'm not sure how that would work hotel-wise. It's all weird, man. If one guy gets, even for NBA and NHL, like if one guy gets COVID, like you pretty much got to call off the season. So,
could you imagine? Everyone would be so excited, and then boom.
Oh no, Zach!
Especially, man, like imagine. And I saw someone on Twitter make a funny joke about NHL because they never disclose injury. So like someone's gonna get COVID and they'll just call it an upper body injury, and it's like, hey, I mean, if that's if you're willing to jeopardize players' health, then just don't tell anyone.
Exactly. If we're gonna go an inch, we might as well take a mile.
Yeah. Don't underestimate pro sports leagues' greed. So we'll see how that goes. Again, very thankful for pro sports leagues and their greed, because it gives us something to talk about. Anyways, guys, let's get this on a little more lighthearted this week. We had a couple days worth of rain, and now the sun is shining. And as Zach mentioned, it's going to get hot in the next couple of weeks, and summer's around the corner. And just because of all this COVID thing doesn't mean you can't enjoy a nice summer treat. So our food take this week is, what's the better summer treat? Popsicles or Freezies? I just bought a pack of Freezies in my deep freeze. I'm probably going to treat myself after the pod and have one. It's just Mr. Freeze, the classic ones. You can get the jumbo ones too, but I didn't see them at Superstore. And I'm looking forward to having one. I'm going Team Freezie, man. There's nothing better than just cutting it off and having a nice Freezie on a hot summer day. So Team Freezie. Zach, where do you fall on this one?
Man, Steve, I don't know if you remember, but us growing up, your parents would always bring us out popsicles while we were playing basketball or red butt or something as kids. Now, here's the thing about Freezies and popsicles, okay? Popsicles, there's so much more variety. You can have homemade popsicles. You can have those Starship popsicles. You can have just the plain Jane orange, pink popsicles. With Freezies, you get jumbo or you get small.
You can't include creamsicles. Those are its own category.
What? Really?
Yeah.
But they're
called creamsicles. They are not a popsicle.
But they end in sickle.
Yeah, I can call it a freezicle if that's the only one category.
I'm team creamsicle is popsicle. Like,
yeah,
okay, we'll have
this is just a nice little side debate, but
yeah.
Anyways.
I feel like we could get away with saying fudgicles. Is
a fudgesicle a popsicle though?
Right.
Because now you're talking about chocolate. That's not really the same thing. I was just talking about like you were talking about, like those orange popsicles or the ones that you take and you break into, or
the Starship ones.
Ones. Those are like the pure just ice and sugar popsicle.
Yeah, they also have those like circular. Cyclone. I gotta go with the popsicle here because of the variety, Steve. I love Freezies, and we have some jumbo ones in the freezer right now.
Oh, what?
I could run.
I was just in Medicine Hat 2 weeks ago, and you didn't offer one?
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm sorry.
The rite of passage in Medicine Hat.
You offer your guest a Freezie.
You better get down here, Steve, because we still got a few left. Okay, so I know. For me. My parents may be on the Freezie train here. I know they love their Freezies, but I think I'm going Team Popsicle right now. So.
And Ozzy.
Yeah, I'm breaking the tie here one way or another, and I'm going Freezie.
I did not expect that.
Let's go.
I am lazy. I don't like the work that's associated with popsicles. Once you're done, you got to clean it. You got to mix up the stuff anyways to like put it in the freezer. Like, no, just go to the store, buy me a Freezie. I'll snip it off, and there we go.
Boys.
All right. Well, this was a fun episode. I have a fun time pulling some quotes and polls and all sorts of debates out of this one. So what do you want to debate more? Baker?
I feel like we should finish off this creamsicle, fudgesicle, popsicle debate.
They're not all. If they were all considered a popsicle.
Creamsicle and popsicle are the same. Fudgesicle not.
Okay,
Once you just get just dairy, then
I could concede. No. Yeah, because a fudgesicle, like if we're talking fudgesicles, that might be better than all three.
But they all end in a cool.
Yeah, it takes away from my prior argument. I know.
Essicle, or I messed up. I was going to make a Star Wars thing, but don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I thought you said testicle. I was like, oh, nice.
Oh,
Mexico is what I was going to say. The Sith planet. But
on that note, episode 65, guys, that's the retirement age on average for most people. So we should probably think about wrapping it up.
Where'd you get that number, Steve?
65.
Okay. Yeah, no.
That's like just the average. Isn't that the retirement age?
I have no idea.
Or is that ageist? We're not ageist here. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. You can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. And be sure to check us out, all our agency accounts at The Amateur Agency. Ian just wrapped up 2 really good interviews back to back. One with the blogger from Raptors Rapture and the other one from the Canadian Elite Basketball League. So definitely check out some latest B2B episodes. And again, in the show notes here, we're going to have a copy of all our interviews that we've done in the past. If you guys want to go check those out, I know we've been having some new listeners come across our content. So if you're curious about anyone we've interviewed, it'll be down below. Ozzy, where can the fine folks find you?
Well, fine folks, I know we've got some new fine folks. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Austin Paul _. That's Austin with a Y, not an I.
Not an I.
And, you know, I mean, it is what it is. You can't change your name. So
It's a light shot at your parents, but hey, it's the hot take factory here. Zach, where can everyone find you, man? Where are you hiding?
All right. You guys could find me living the dream on Instagram at ZachFoth _ or on Twitter at ZachFoth. All right.
Very
how
nice.
come no
Well,
underscore on Twitter?
He doesn't have
Change it
to.
up, man.
Keep them on their toes.
That's
I
right.
like it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And as always, Godspeed. Oh, I always have to click yes. Godspeed now.